everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda Rose. It's been a while since I have seen you here on YouTube, so hopefully you all are doing well. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about my top 4 remote teaching must-haves. I've realized that there are so many different programs online to help you teach remotely, really great websites, everyone has a suggestion. There's so much information, great information and helpful information. But if you're anything like me, I get really overwhelmed with too much information, and then it's really hard for me to make decisions. And so although it is awesome and beautiful that there are so many different things that we can use for remote teaching, I learned or realized very quickly that I started to become overwhelmed with the options. And so I figured, hey, if everything was taken from me and I was only allowed to pick 4 things to help me teach remotely, what would those 4 things be? What would I need without a doubt 100%? I thought about like bringing it back to the basics. So if you haven't already, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel, that you like this video, that you also put down in the comments what are some of your remote teaching must-haves, and let's get into it. My 4 remote teaching must-haves. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to mention to you guys is this. It is my laptop holder. So I have been teaching obviously at a desk, and my neck looking down at the laptop, 1, doesn't help, and 2, when you are teaching, you can't just like, it's just a really ugly angle. And so for about the first 2 months of remote teaching, I was using these stack of books behind me and then just plopping my laptop on top. Not a good look. It creates such a messy vibe in my room, and so I just decided, let me just buy a laptop stand, a laptop holder, whatever you want to call this. So your laptop sits right here. It's a nice big space that's elevated, and then now I have it at my desk. While I'm teaching, I can look straight at my students, and I don't have to worry about putting 5 books in front of me in order to feel like my laptop is elevated at a really decent height. And so if there's anything that I would say I needed for remote teaching, was this laptop stand, laptop holder, just so that I would be at a really good eye level with the camera while I teach my students. And it also helped a lot because my neck started to hurt from like looking down. So that's definitely one thing that I would highly recommend if you do not already have and you are using books like I was for a really long time. The second thing that I want to recommend is a Chrome extension called Grade Transferer. Now, I mentioned this in my previous video that I was looking for an easier way to grade work. All of my students submit work on Google Classroom, and so for me, I like the idea of being able to grade in Google Classroom because my students can see why they received the grade that they received. You can write comments on their work, and so I love everything about Google Classroom and the features of being able to provide feedback. But what I do not love is having to take those grades and then put them into PowerSchool, which is the program that my school uses for grading. Now, I know some teachers have said that they don't put grades into Google Classroom, they just put it directly into PowerSchool. But for me, I want it to be easy for the students to be able to know why they received the grade that they received. And if they only see a grade in PowerSchool, but they don't see a grade or comment in Google Classroom, there is a disconnect. And then I would probably have to conference with students a lot more. So I like being able to put everything in Google Classroom, but again, transferring grades over was a pain. A coworker of mine told me to try out Grade Transferer. You can get a 7-day free trial, and then I liked it and I decided to pay for it. It is a Chrome extension. Maybe if you speak to your school, they will pay for it for you, but for me, I thought it was worth investing in that because you can literally copy all the grades, they match it based on your student's name, and then I just paste them into PowerSchool, and it is a game changer for me. I will say sometimes it does glitch and it does put the grades in incorrectly. It has happened to me before, and so there are times where I just have to double check and make sure that everything is accurate, or I will do just certain grades at a time, maybe the first 15 and then the next 15, versus trying to copy all 80. Yes, 80. I have 80 in one block all at a time. So that's my second one, Grade Transfer, which is a Chrome extension. My third must-have is a YouTube channel called TED Ed. I am obsessed with this YouTube channel. Now, for many of us, we're looking for videos and things that we can use in the classroom that will help educate our students. And so I love the TED Ed videos. I have been obsessed with them, especially for my government class. Just love the way that they explain things on that YouTube channel. And so if you are not familiar with it, which I'm pretty sure you already are, but again, this is like a must-have for me. I love using this channel to teach, whether it is to show students videos during synchronous time or to just link them in a Google Doc during asynchronous time and having them respond to questions. So I know this is like a weird thing to add in, but it is a YouTube channel that I constantly find myself going back to, especially when I'm introducing new content that I wanted to just throw out there, because they don't just focus on history related things, which is the subject that I teach, but they do address all topics and all subjects. So if you haven't heard of them already, which again, I'm pretty sure you have, and it doesn't mean that every video that they have is amazing, but so far, the videos that I have found and that I have used in my classroom have been great. Then the last thing I want to talk to you about as far as my must-have is Google Suites. Again, I think that we're just living in an age where now there's so many different websites and they all have their place and they're super cool. I love using Padlet. I love using Nearpod. But there are times when I just have to take it back a notch and bring it back to the basics. And so Google Docs and Google Forms have been my go-to lately. I'm starting to feel tired. I'm starting to feel burnt out. And for me, these are just the foolproof ways of creating lessons and activities for my students. And so I'm not saying that I will never use Nearpod or never use Padlet or never use Answer Garden and all of these other really cool things. But when I'm thinking about, again, if everything was taken from me and I only had to use these programs, this is what it would be. Now, I went back and forth a lot with this as to why I wouldn't use Nearpod every day, or why it wouldn't be in this. And for me, Nearpod is great for synchronous time, right? Direct instruction with your students. But at my school, synchronous time is only 30 minutes, and then our students have an hour of asynchronous time. So for my school and the priorities for me right now when I create lessons, there's a big focus on asynchronous time, which is where I create a lot of my lessons using Google Docs and Google Forms. And of course, Google Suites does also include slides in there. So for me, this is why I have chosen this as an option, because for my school and the priorities that we're focused on, asynchronous time takes precedent right now. And so I have to think of ways where I can create lessons for my students that will be an hour long when I'm not with them, right? So again, synchronous time, Nearpod is great for that, but asynchronous time, it's not, like, I just don't know how I would do that. Anyways, Google Docs and Google Forms. So I am going to insert some photos of ways that I have used Google Forms in my classroom. We rolled out, when I say we, my co-teacher and I, we rolled out a political party project for them, and we needed some feedback. Who doesn't know how to create a folder in their Drive? Who doesn't know how to share a document? Who doesn't know how to add a document to their folder? What are you confused about? What are you possibly nervous about? Put all those questions in a form. We had our students respond, and then we were able to take that data and put it into a pie chart. Then we were able to share that information with our students, and they were able to assess their own data. And I will put up a picture here of how we use some of that data in a Do Now, how we used it to organize groups. And so it was just really, really helpful information. That's one way, again, that we've chosen to use Google Forms. And with Google Docs, it's just so simple and easy. You can add charts in there, you can add images, you can add links so that students can then go and watch a video and then answer some questions. So for me, I just love using these two things when I just feel like I'm exhausted. I know I have to create a lesson. I still want it to be cool. I still want it to be engaging. I want everything housed in one place. And so that's why I will use Google Docs. And I've been, again, loving Google Forms as a way to gather feedback from my students and then allow them to also see the results of the feedback. So here's just an example of a standard lesson that I would do. Again, remember, I have seniors with the Supreme Court. I linked 2 videos. I linked an article for them to read. And then at the end, they just had their exit slip. So this is like a basic lesson that I would do with Google Docs. So I know I was a little long-winded on that point. And again, as I've mentioned, I know that there are cooler programs, but for me, take it all away. What are the 4 to 5 things that I just need in order to teach remotely? Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it basic. It's these things. It's the laptop holder, without a doubt. It's the Grade Transfer Chrome extension. It's TED Ed on YouTube. And it is also Google Suites. Docs, Forms, Slides. That's where it's at for me. Take away everything. But if I have those things, I am able to successfully teach remotely. So hopefully you guys found this video helpful. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and also put down your remote teaching must-haves in the comments below. I will see you all very soon in the next video.